Thank you to CyberGhost VPN for supporting PBS. Welcome back, smart people. Joe here. Today I want to talk about why our species has evolved a life story that isn't quite like any other species on this planet. Understanding how the forces of nature shape an organism's life story is the key to figuring out why our incredible living world is the way it is. Today we're going to explore that by digging into one of our species' biggest unsolved evolutionary mysteries. That mystery is why your grandma exists. It's not because of the cookies. This tiny bite, less than a millimeter long, may win the trophy for the strangest life cycle of any animal. The females are born pregnant. She spends a few days feeding on the eggs of insects until several daughters and one son hatch inside her body and then mate with each other. The daughters eat their way out of mom, already pregnant, ready to do this all again a few days later. Compare that reproductive strategy with the kiwi bird. Females in this flightless feathered fluffball grow a single egg that can be up to a quarter of her body weight. That's like a human giving birth to a 4-year-old. Why more than 10 million eggs each time it spawns, while the Greenland shark doesn't reach sexual maturity until it's 150 years old, and its pups grow for more than 8 years before they're born.
क्या हाल चाल है भाई? बढ़िया.
I've had a need to know.
फुटबॉल डे यही रहना चाहिए. थैंक्स भाई. हेलो भाई, कहाँ से हो? यूपी.
नमस्ते, एक बार फिर से आप सबका स्वागत आज की इस पॉलिटिकल करेक्ट वार्ता में, जिसमें हम एक बात करने वाले हैं जिसमें पहले की है. आज थोड़ा सा उसका एक अलग डायमेंशन है, इस पे बात करें. आपको ध्यान है जब किसानों ने, सो कॉल्ड किसानों ने, एक्चुअली खालिस्तानियों ने
as blacks.
Kevin Hart said that ancient Egyptians were African. Egyptians look so different than those who see them as
मैच देखते हो आप? नहीं.
It's the very hot debate. Were Egyptians, are Egyptians African? Does Egypt have a race problem? All this and more straight to you. I changed my double gear, and I want to say this video is for everyone. Whether you are an Afrocentric who believes that the ancient Egyptians were black, or if you were an Egyptian who was very mad about that even being brought up, or if you have no idea what any of this is about, what you can believe. Well, I promise you. If you're wondering right now, who is this white man in front of you?
That
Hi,
cute.
my name is Mesa. I'm known
भाई
on TikTok
थोड़ा
for
तो
talking
भाव
about
दे.
Egypt,
क्या
race,
भाव दे
and all
बता
this
दे.
type of stuff. And I am half white American, half
They don't
Coptic
know.
Saudi Egyptian. That'll make sense later. To start things out, this discussion of the ancient Egyptians race is not new. It's been happening for the last few hundred years.
I have a video explaining the details of this, but essentially, Europeans wanted to claim Egypt as white for racism. But even in the 1800s, you have people arguing that the ancient Egyptians were black because the common people, my people, look mulatto. Based on our thick lips and our jaundiced skin, we must be a mixture of black. Therefore, the ancient Egyptians must be black. And that's still believed by a lot of people today. And honestly, I don't blame them. Look at
What are
Colin
you
Kaepernick.
watching?
He's literally half white, half black. And he
अब
looks
आपको क्यों जानना
super
है अपनी
Egyptian,
गर्लफ्रेंड?
super
What are you
common.
watching?
That
I'm
looks like a
watching
Krolos or a Mina
YouTube
or a
video.
Ebano to me. But the guy who really started this whole debate is named Chik Andio, a legendary Senegalese man that dedicated his life to fighting racism, showing that Africa was the center of the entire world. All civilization comes from Africa, really. And that's what we call Afrocentrism. Here's the thing. Historically, he's actually kind of right. For one, all humans, regardless of
You are
where you're
rude. Bye. Bye.
from, are originally from Africa. And where does a lot of European culture come from? Greek. Where does a lot of Greek culture come from? Egypt? Africa. So therefore, Africa is actually the center of a lot of
तौबा तौबा क्या
civilization.
देख रहे
This brings me to my first major point, and I'm mainly addressing Egyptian humans.
हो? Unsubscribe turn disliked by इतना ज़्यादा गुस्सा. Okay, bye. तू कौन से देश से है भाई? चाइना नहीं, अफ्रीका. अफ्रीका में इजिप्ट से.
Egypt is Africa.
Joking.
I'm so tired of hearing Egyptians say, we're not African, we're Egyptian. Bitch, where the fuck do you think Egypt is? The other thing about this that pisses me off, so many of my friends, is that this assumes that Africa is like this one thing. Like, oh, there's Egypt and North Africa, which is, Arab, but then there's sub-Saharan Africa. They're all the same basically, which is
लग तो युगांडा से रहा है. हाँ भाई, सेम. भाई किसी की लेने का मन कर रहा है दिल. मुकेश तो अफ्रीका से है. नहीं, वो चाइना से है.
so not true. Look at the Nubians compared to the Dinka. Look at the Dinka compared to the Somalis. Some Egyptians like to separate themselves from the rest of Africa, but you guys, we are part of this whole color gradient. If you go to North Egypt, yes, many people are very light. But as you go to Somalia, you know that it gradually gets to the point where it can get hard to tell the difference between a South Egyptian and a North Sudanese person, or even between an Eritrean or an Ethiopian. As an
मेरे पीछे घड़ी में लग रहा है 9:30 हुए हो. अरे पीछे पीछे. और किसी की नहीं तो आपकी दे दो. लाखरा घड़ी घड़ी बंद है. घड़ी बंद नहीं है. घड़ी को आप लोग उल्टा देख रहे हो, क्योंकि मैं फ्रंट कैमरा ऑन करके देख रहा हूँ.
Egyptian, I know it can be hard to say this, but we are African. We are very
तुम्हें
much
उल्टे दिख
African.
रहे
We
हैं
are
क्योंकि
integrated
फ्रंट
in the
कैमरा
history,
ऑन.
the culture. We are just as African as anyone else. Back to the O. When I say that this man is a legend and brilliant, I'm not exaggerating. He was so ahead of his time and so important for so many people. But
Hi,
he was
Rajan.
definitely not perfect and made a lot of very,
Hi.
very major mistakes that are still being perpetuated today. So it's time to address Africa.
जॉन पार्ट्रीज. हाय लाखरा कुमार. आपकी लपक. मुकेश भाई. What are you? I'm from Lucknow. नो बैड कमेंट्स. ओके, कोई भी गलत कमेंट नहीं करेगा. वेयर आर यू फ्रॉम? यू मीन राजन कुमार.
Warning, we will be getting into the weeds of a lot of this stuff. Many people don't know this, but there's not an app.
Message me on Instagram. I'll tell you what to do. मोहित खान पाकिस्तान ओके भाई क्या है पिछले वाले को पता कर रहा है नो बैड कमेंट्स रिप्लाई करना
Afrocentric argument, there are many different points of views, and I want to address as many as I possibly can. Here's what we will be addressing during this section. There are timestamps below. Feel free to skip the question you want to hear. Let's get into it. The current Egyptians are Arab invaders, not the original Egyptians. This is probably one of the most common arguments, and it also makes the most in a region. Are Muslim, speak Arabic, and look pretty similar to outsiders, so it makes sense that it was probably an Arab demographic that wiped out the indigenous population of Africa and replaced them.
You learning English? No, I'm not learning English. Hi, KK Gamers.
Or whatever. But
Which
now what
country?
happened?
India. And you?
Reasons why. For
Where are
one,
you from?
the Arabs
I'm from India. Why that it's
came in
KK Gamers.
641 AD. And you know the population of the Arabs that first came? 4 to 6,000. The population of Egypt during that time was 6 to 10 million high.
India, okay.
And it did not keep with how Egyptians were at all. Now hold on, here you're counter. Meta, look at the city.
I'll check. Okay. I'm just watching a YouTube video, that's all.
16th century England, small country.
कहाँ से हो जी? यूपी.
That took over all of America and wiped out much of the population of the Native Americans. A very good counter-argument. So let's talk about the indigenous people.
लखनऊ.
Believe it or not, that was ancient Egyptian, but it's now called Coptic and it is spoken in the churches in Egypt. To make a very, very long story short, before Egypt was Muslim, or the Arabs or Muslims or however you want to say it, came in 641 AD, the conversion to Islam began in Egypt. There were
हीरो लगते हो जी. Thanks bro.
a demographic who did not convert, and they became what we now know the Coptic people of Egypt. This demographic, essentially, it's a religion of people who stay so within themselves and do not mix with other people for so long that they become their own ethnicity. And so the Coptic people of Egypt are actually
I'm your
great
new
priest
subscriber.
of
I'm
what
Gunjan. I recently subscribed you, brother. Thanks, Gunjan. 10 like target. Thanks. That's so sweet.
Egyptians looked like before the Arab conquest, and they look the same as Muslim Egyptians. I didn't explain how severe this is. This isn't just, oh, Coptic and Muslim, that's really taboo if they marry. This is like, yeah, that's not happening. Like in most of Egypt's history and a lot of Egypt today in rural areas, if that happens, it's like, oh, you're a 1960s black man in Alabama, you want to marry a white woman? Oh, I wouldn't recommend that. That's not a good idea. This is also a great example of why.
क्या कर रहे हो जी? मैं YouTube का वीडियो देख रहा हूँ स्टोरी का. प्रकाश जोशी. हाय.
It's so offensive to some people when a random demographic from, let's say, America says, we're the real
Where are you from, brother? I'm from Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh.
Egyptians because Coptic people have been discriminated against pretty seriously for being real Egyptians. There's a chance I might get in trouble for just saying this on YouTube. There'll probably be some hateful comments, but a lot of our elders, our parents, our grandparents have really, really messed up dark stories of being discriminated against, being attacked, being beaten up, just because they have this symbol or because their family is Coptic. This isn't just a Coptic issue. The Muslims have to deal with anti-Egyptian sentiment within themselves as well, because when you have very, very curly hair that's natural in Egypt, that's not a good thing. Or when you have darker skin, or any of the natural...
Are you from foreign? No, I'm not from foreign. Why do you think so? Hi bro, beginner.
Current things that make Egyptians actually Egyptian. They look down upon them. They want to look more Arab or white. They're conquerors. But let's move on to the next argument. The current Egyptians are a mix of all the people that have colonized Egypt. Yep, and I have no interest in debating anyone who says differently. What civilization do you know that can exist for well over 5,000 years between the biggest crossroads of all of humanity, Africa, Middle East, and Europe, and not be mixed? But, wait for it. What's your point? If your point is, well, the current Egyptians are mixed, so that means that the old demographic must have been black or darker. Okay, here's the counterpoint. Based on DNA tests, which I do keep using, the current population of Egypt actually has substantially more Central African DNA in them than they originally did because of the slave trade. Meaning some people argue, and I've heard actually well-respected people argue this, that the ancient Egyptians could have been a bit lighter than the current population. Here's what I think as a mixed Egyptian.
You Indian? Yes.
Let's stop playing political quantum, okay? The problem with both sides equally is that there is evidence easily Egyptians too. All you racist little
तो साहब जी वाह, मेरा मोमोज को
comment section
का ढीला
saying,
लेकर भाग
"Oh,
गया
this person
ठेला
is less Egyptian because
क्या
he's
देख
dark."
रहे हो?
Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Ignore my
YouTube
beard.
video.
Egypt
I'm just
has
watching
always
YouTube
been
video.
the crossroads between the Middle East, Europe, and Africa. It's never not been there. So what makes you think that there would ever be a time where Egypt looked like one thing? And for those of you who are not Egyptian, who don't understand this concept, in Egypt, I know people that are fully
Hi Bhavis. Hi.
0% Egyptian. Their family is from Armenia or Turkey or somewhere else around the region. But they are more Egyptian than I could ever be, even though I'm Coptic. And in Egypt, they are seen as Egyptian. The idea of DNA purity in Egypt is a very foreign idea to many Egyptians. It's more of you generally look Egyptian, and do you speak Masri? Cool, you're Egyptian to us. But yes, for those of you wondering, when you are much darker, let's say from South Sudan, you're not going to be able to fit in, even if you speak fluent Egyptian Arabic. Sad. The Greek historian Herodotus wrote that the Egyptians were black-skinned with woolly hair, like the Ethiopians. Yep, for sure said that. Welcome to the game show, Guess That Ethnicity, right? Where you just guess that ethnicity. Okay, here's how the game works. We're going to show you images of East African men, and you're going to have to guess where they're from. Are they from Sudan? Are they from Egypt? What about Eritrea? Are you ready? Yeah. Let's play. Okay. Where is this? Ethiopia, 500. Oh, I am sorry. This is the Egyptian president, Anwar Sadat. What about this? Sudanese for Egypt. Wow. You are a... This is the Egyptian rapper Wigs. Okay, here's an easy one to save the day. Where is this? Eritrean. Easy. That is Eritrean. Wow, that's literally your fucking uncle. You are some racist piece of... You get my point. Herodotus said that about Egyptians, that they were black with curly hair, because that's what they are. Egypt is not just Cairo and Alexandria. There's a whole lot of other people in Egypt, like people from Side, who are lower and have darker skin, curly hair. But the historically annoying thing about people who quote Herodotus and say, oh, he saw ancient Egyptians and said they were black. Guys, he saw them in the 5th century BC, meaning Egypt had already been conquered 5 times by the Hyksos, by the Assyrians, by the Nubians, by the Libyans, and by the Persians. And he still identified them as black. I'm just saying it doesn't make any sense. Like some of you will say, oh, the Hyksos erased the original Egyptians, and then say, see, Herodotus saw the original Egyptians. Herodotus came 1,000 years after the Hyksos had already came and gone. You can't quote, you can't say, Thomas Jefferson was the first black president. One, that's factually incorrect, and 2, totally wrong timelines. Oh my gosh. The Nubian people are the true Egyptians. This one is 10 out of 10. Cringe. Nubian people are their own ethnicity, similar to the Beja people, similar to the Siwa people, similar to the Bedouin people. There's a lot of different ethnicities